Silly season is in full swing right now as we enter partway third of the way now through the January transfer window. Not much is going on in terms of Arsenal incomings, but it's the outgoings that are getting quite interesting. We've already seen the likes of Kolasinac and William Saliba move on. There's lots of chaos going on around Mesut Ozil right now, and there could be some more interesting thoughts about possible outgoings too. So we're going to talk about that and much more with a fantastic guest. So let's crack on with it. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, reacting to the latest Arsenal news. And this week, for this show, I'm joined by a very special guest, returning again. It's Alvaro. Romeo. How are you doing, mate? You well?
Very, very well, Tom. How are you?
I'm good. I was sitting here an hour earlier trying to practice the pronunciation of your name in my best Spanish accent. I don't think I've nailed it perfectly. But I've had a good go.
I would say that I give you a solid 8 out of 10.
I'll take that. That's not bad.
Take it. Yeah.
I'll take it for sure. I'll have to get practice. I'll be sitting in front of a mirror, just going over it over and over again. How are you, though? Are you good? Are you well?
Yeah, I can't complain, man. Christmas has been busy. There has been a lot of football going on. It's funny because 4 seasons ago, the Premier League season lasted 31 more days than this current season. So that tells you how congested the calendar is. And we're having postponements, games that have been cancelled and all that. So I think that looking forward, moving ahead, the March, April, May period is going to be super busy as well, because there will be cancellations, games that they will have to be played. And yeah, but it's been good so far, really. I can't complain. When there is like a congestion of football, I really enjoy it. Some people just miss the plot, but I tend to try to follow everything, really.
Yes, it's really difficult. I find that ever since I've started kind of writing about football, that obviously it takes over your life completely, and for like if you're in a relationship as well, the other half is like, I've got to watch the football, and she's looking at me like, oh, it's okay, football again this evening. Yep, football again this evening. So it is all encompassing, but it is obviously massively immersive and a great pleasure to work in the business as well. But it's interesting how much chaos happens during a January window. Last time we spoke was right at the end. Actually, the last time we spoke was I think it was a couple of days before transfer deadline day in the summer. And I was asking you about whether you thought that Partey could move to Arsenal, and you were very much like, anything can happen. Like, he has a release clause. If Arsenal come in and activate it, they can get it. And that's exactly what happened. We're going to talk about a lot more that I want to focus on, but just an initial kind of reaction to that deal on deadline day. What was going through your mind when Arsenal did manage to get it done?
Well, a few things. Number one, that Arsenal was getting a great player. Unfortunately, for reasons that probably go beyond his physical and technical skills. He has got injuries and all that. He hasn't been able to prove his quality yet, Thomas. But I thought that was a great loss for Atletico de Madrid, to the point that Thomas left and Atletico needed to get 2 players instead, just to try to replace half of what Thomas was giving them, Lucas Torreira and Kondogbia. It was a great signing for Arsenal. I still believe that Thomas Partey is going to play a part in this team, but at the same time, you see new players coming and doing the job at Arsenal recently in midfield, and you tend to think, well, if Thomas wants to play now, he will have to improve a lot and to get ready for the fight, because otherwise the season will go by and Thomas will be, not featuring enough.
It's really frustrating with the injury-wise, because he was like never injured for Atleti. Like, you never saw him miss many games, if at all. Only through rotation, and he's come to Arsenal, and as is with lots of Arsenal kind of players, is they get injured, and that seemingly happened with him as well. And you mentioned Torreira and Jeffrey Kondogbia as well, who came in at Atleti, that strange Spanish transfer rule, what we saw with Martin Braithwaite at Barcelona, and they're able to go out and sign a player even outside of the parameters of the window. But what surprised me is the kind of the Torreira situation, because the stories that came out when he left were very much that he was being kind of sold the idea of playing with Partey at Atletico. That didn't obviously happen, because Arsenal took Partey, and he's not had the best of times out there, to the point where we're starting to see some quite crazy rumours, to the point where some kind of outlets are claiming that Arsenal are annoyed at Atletico for purposely devaluing Torreira. What do you make of those rumours, and how much truth do you think there is within them?
Well, I don't think that Atletico is devaluing Lucas Torreira on purpose, especially Simeone. If Simeone understands that Lucas Torreira can bring something really good to the team, he will play him. He will field him, definitely. The thing with Torreira is that if you play for Atletico de Madrid, there is a learning curve in there, and I think that he's in the middle of the learning process, in the same way that Kondogbia is. I mean, Kondogbia is a very good player, and he played fantastically for Valencia. And I do believe that there is still a great footballer in Lucas Torreira too, but you have to adapt to Atletico de Madrid. Every player, when they work under Simeone, need like few months. Antoine Griezmann needed. Who else? Well, many players. They have gone through that. So I think Lucas Torreira is just going through that as well. Unfortunately for him, and this is what I want to remark, he got a great chance to prove his quality and to catch the eye of the manager in the Spanish Cup. But Atletico de Madrid got out of the cup a couple of days ago, unfortunately for them, against the third-tier team. So when that happened, I felt sorry for Lucas Torreira because he started every game in the cup, 2 games only. But that was apparently his platform to convince the manager. And now he doesn't have that platform. And Atletico de Madrid is only involved in 2 competitions, the Champions League, and Lucas Torreira so far has played only 32 minutes in the Champions League, and La Liga. And Lucas Torreira has only played so far 201 minutes in La Liga. So this is going to get difficult for him, especially because Atletico de Madrid doesn't play with 2 holding midfielders anymore. And Lucas Torreira is supposed to be one of them. So, if you start adding up all these conditions to the mixer, you realize that Lucas Torreira's chances of playing for Atletico de Madrid are getting reduced, limited. And he will have to play really well whenever he gets the chance and try to convince the manager like this.
He played in the cup game, which they were obviously eliminated from, which was quite a big shock at the time. And when you're looking at those opportunities, losing against the lower league side that they did, do you think that is going to have an even further kind of negative impact on his chances of getting minutes for Simeone?
I think so. I really think so. Because Atletico de Madrid have few players, midfielders as well, that are not playing enough. The likes of Saúl Ñíguez, who the other day, after losing against Cornellà, the third-tier team in the cup, he came out and said something that I've never heard from a footballer. He said, I am not up to the challenge, either physically or mentally. So Saúl Ñíguez was being very humble about himself and tremendously critical with himself. So Saúl is one of those players that if he improves, we know that Simeone will play him. Then you've got Kondogbia, another strong candidate to play as a midfielder. And then you have Lucas Torreira, a player who is a bit younger than Kondogbia, a player who doesn't have the Atletico pedigree as Saúl Ñíguez has. So if the 3 of them improve a little bit, I don't think that Lucas Torreira is going to be the first one in the pecking order. That's the problem with Lucas Torreira. He got a tremendous platform in the cup to show his quality. And now that platform is completely gone. Atletico de Madrid won't be playing in the cup anymore.
It is mental to consider how they're so solid, well, not solid favourites, I suppose, but being up there and points clear with games in hand at the top to lose out to that third-tier side is mental. And I think it's the way that the Copa del Rey should work, is not 2-legged ties. It should be like the FA Cup and the League Cup up until what was the old semi-final, where it is just a straight knockout. Because we've seen the likes of, was it Fuenlabrada that nearly knocked out Real Madrid previously, and then the second leg they turned it round, and I think Real Oviedo had one previously as well, where they nearly knocked out one of the big boys, but the second leg they turned it round. It's just more exciting when you see the one-legged ties and these big upsets. And it's something that I think Spanish footballers maybe kind of missed out on because they've had these 2-legged Copa del Rey. Is it done, do you think, because they've just got the one domestic cup competition, whereas in obviously England we've got the League Cup and the FA Cup?
Yeah, it's a little bit for that also, because if you have 2 legs and you always play the first leg in the smaller club's ground, then the smaller club is going to have a great attendance and they're going to make a lot of money from the ticketing. So the whole concept was about giving a chance to the smaller clubs to have a great match day revenue at least once a season. But yeah, the format has changed. The new Spanish FA president wanted to do that. He got plaudits and really positive critics and reviews for last season's Spanish Cup, that it was so good and so unpredictable, and it helped the magic of the Cup happen so much that the final is going to be played between Athletic Club Bilbao and Real Sociedad. One club, Real Sociedad, hasn't won a title for 38 years. Athletic Club Bilbao hasn't won a major title for 36 years. So this format definitely works, and it gives way to surprises and major upsets. So this format is here to stay again. And I remember that at the beginning of the century, the Spanish FA tried as well to use the one-leg system, but that didn't work, to the point that many managers, one of them, Irureta from Deportivo de La Coruña, was complaining about the one leg, because he was saying, when the Tour de France starts, Chris Froome doesn't start with 1 or 2 minutes deficit, just because he is a better cyclist than the rest, better rider. And at that point, it was a little bit like, yeah, okay, fine, but you cannot really translate cycling into football. I mean, you cannot do those, comparisons, because they don't really work. And I think that this format is working really, really, really well. And they have been upsets already. Last year, Sevilla lost against the low-tier team as well. This season, Atletico de Madrid. And last season, too, they lost against low-tier teams. So it's so nice. It's really something that we should have copied much before, because the FA Cup format is almost perfect. I mean, the FA Cup format comes from 1871. And it's a format that is 150 years old. And it still works. It's still valid, because it's so simple that it's contemporary, it's modern.
It is modern. It is something that I think they should adopt and change. I understand. I didn't actually know the reasoning behind the 2 legs in regards to the finances for the lower league opposite. And actually, in my mind, when I reflect on that, it is a good idea, especially when you look at some of the lower league oppositions in the UK. And there was a story that came out from the Athletic yesterday about how Marine, who are playing Spurs, if they beat Spurs, they won't be on furlough until the next round. But if they do beat Spurs, if they don't beat Spurs and lose, the squad's going to be put onto furlough, because the club can't manage the finances. So, and I know this is very strange times, but it does show you the impact of the money that can come from playing these big sides on smaller teams. So yeah, for sure. You mentioned cycling as kind of an example within that. And I suppose a nice segue is one man that Arsenal fans would hope would get on his bike very soon is Willian, which I can see that plenty of people in the chat box are talking about right now. So we should probably move on to that. He was linked with a move to Real Betis back in December, midway through December. I wrote an article on it based upon some of the information that was put out by La Razón. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong as well, in Spain. That was not bad. A solid 7 out of 10. We'll go for that one. But in terms of how realistic this is, because it's cropped up over the last couple of days again, the links to Willian. Firstly, financially, is this something that Real Betis could feasibly do if it was even possible?
I think that's going to be quite complicated. I don't think that Real Betis can afford paying all the wages of Willian. And La Razón is not a bad newspaper, not at all. I mean, when they publish something, it's because they've got a source or two. So I am sure that they have spoken to some people and they got this information. But what I do know is that Real Betis is under some financial trouble. Unlike Sevilla, the other city of the capital, Real Betis is not doing well financially. To the point that in the last meeting between the board, it was said that if a good offer comes from key players, has to be accepted. Willian Carvalho apparently is one of those players that they may get a good offer for, and they couldn't hesitate to sell him. So this is the situation at Betis. At the same time, in that position where Willian theoretically will play in the right wing, Real Betis has a really promising young player, Lainez, a Mexican guy who is tricky, who can be skillful, who dribbles past really well, and he did a great game against Sevilla. So it could be a little bit pointless at the minute, if I may, to sign a player like Willian and stop the progress of the Mexican guy, stop the progress of Lainez. So the Willian thing, could it happen? Well, if Arsenal helps paying part of the wages, maybe. But honestly, I don't think so.
Okay. There are some not weird signings, but kind of in a way impressive signings. You mentioned William Carvalho when he was, I believe it was at Sporting Lisbon previously. Arsenal were linked to him there. You then got Nabil Fekir, who obviously moved from Lyon, that was basically inches away from moving to Liverpool, to the point where I think they even done the shirt photographs in a Liverpool shirt, but then it broke down at the last moment. Betis do pull off some of these kind of marquee deals here and there. Because they've got a decent academy, like the Junior Firpo obviously went off to Barcelona, and they do produce some good players. And you're talking about the young Mexican guy coming through as well. So whilst financially it doesn't make sense, do you think in terms of kind of a player profile, it is someone that they would look at as an option to pursue?
Well, they definitely want to get better, and I don't think that Real Betis has a really good how to put it. The sporting director and the team that the sporting director has around him, I don't think that they are doing a great job. And they are not the kind of... Betis hasn't actually found bargains in the market for a long time. So when you have a sporting director like this, of this kind, who is unable to bring great players for a cheap price, normally they go for the big games, the big names. And they go for the big names who are already like a little bit old, or who are running out of contract, because they don't know much about football. And I do believe that Real Betis has a problem in that department. The recruitment is not great. And signing a player like Willian goes in hand with that. I do believe that Willian is, on paper, a great player. He will be part of the Panini album because everybody knows him. But at the same time, maybe the player that Betis needs. They have to be more clever. And I don't think that bringing in a 32 years old Willian, who is not playing particularly great for Arsenal right now, wouldn't make a lot of sense. So, as I say, I would say 90% I discard this thing from happening. I don't think that Betis will be bringing in a player like Willian.
Okay, I mean, we can probably put that one to the side for the moment and see if anything kind of progresses. It was a strange link when you consider the finances, and as you say, when you talk about the players that are coming through in the same position, Arsenal fans are very frustrated with Willian. They kind of want him to move on, and with the emergence of Bukayo Saka now on the right-hand side rather than playing either left or left back, that has also sent him further down the pecking order. There's a couple of more Spanish links I want to mention as well. Skodran Mustafi has got 6 months left on his deal, was linked with a move to Barcelona. Barcelona, of course, have got some issues at the back with Gerard Piqué out in the long term. Samuel Umtiti's fitness is always up and down. They've got some young guys coming through and playing as well. How much kind of realism is there in a bid for Mustafi in the next few days?
The thing is that if that happens, which I don't think it will, it must happen at the end of January. And I tell you why. There are elections to Barcelona's presidency. Those will happen at the end of January if the pandemic allows, by the way, if the pandemic allows. And right now, Barcelona has an interim board and an interim president. Well, that interim president is not in the position to make signings. It's not that he cannot. Legally, he could, but he doesn't seem to be up for that. He seems to be just up for directing the club during this transitional period, and then the next president will make the decisions he wants to make. So if the elections happen, and let's say Barcelona has a new president by the 25th of January, the new president will have to open the club's pretty much like finances, open the bank and see how much money is in there. The answer is that there is no money. There is a massive debt. And a player like Mustafi, I know that his contract expires in 6 months, but at the same time, he must be on decent wages too. And I don't think that Barcelona can afford that at the minute. As sad as it sounds, that's the way it is. And they still have to offer an extension to Messi, probably. So I don't think that the Mustafi thing will happen. And a couple of new players are showing a certain skill and a certain know-how. One of them, Araujo, the Uruguayan, he's playing really good in the central defense. The other one, Mingueza, he's improving slowly but surely. So I don't think that the centre-back thing is going to be something that Barcelona will address in this winter transfer market, because Gerard Piqué will be back around March. So the team is going to wait. The team is going to try to sign, if anything, a number 9 this winter, if anything. Yeah. But the centre-back thing, I think that Barcelona is not very well covered in that area, but at the same time, they are hopeful that Gerard Piqué comes back soon, and they are hopeful that Araujo and Mingueza, the two players from the academy, they will do the job until then.
Sticking with kind of the Barcelona presidency, there was a couple of links with if Joan Laporta gets in, that he might look to bring back Hector Bellerin to Barcelona. Now, you mentioned that there's no money right now. You've also got the situation with the stadium that they want to renovate and grow that, and that's obviously going to take a toll on their finances. The links and the amount of money involved with the deal for Bellerin was rumoured to be around 20 to 30 million pounds if feasible. Do you think that there's a realistic view in, say, the summer or in a following window that Bellerin could theoretically move back to Barcelona?
First of all, they want to check and test Serginho Dest. He has been a decent player so far. They signed him back in September, and you can see that there is some potential in that guy. He's younger than Hector Bellerin, and if the Serginho Dest signing doesn't turn out to be a disaster, and he becomes a bad player from one night to the other, I don't think that Barcelona will go for Hector Bellerin, because they think that they are well covered in that department with Serginho Dest and even Sergio Roberto deputizing as a fullback whenever the manager is asking for that. And sorry to say something different now, but on the centre-back department, I have to say something. Barcelona is not looking actively for one, but they want Eric Garcia. This is a little bit of a contradiction, because they know that Eric Garcia can be kind of cheap, and at the same time, they know that looking ahead for the future, Eric Garcia is a great option. So they are not looking actively for a centre half, but they've been looking actively over the last couple of years to bring back Eric Garcia. So unrelated to the centre-back position, or unrelated to whether they like Araujo or Mingueza, the academy players, they wanted Eric Garcia back. So I think that thing makes the Mustafi thing even more unlikely.
Last transfer question before we have a little chat about Arteta specifically. Martino in the chat has said, what do you think about Joan from Sevilla? He was linked with a £32 million move to Arsenal in the recent weeks, but has kind of distanced himself from those.
Well, Joan is one of the best midfielders at Sevilla. He's got energy. He's got a great shot. He is a player who doesn't necessarily organize the game. He doesn't have the compass of the game to understand, right? He's not a Pep Guardiola. He's not a Rodri. But at the same time, he is a super valuable midfielder for Lopetegui. He's a player who is adding a lot of goal threat in the set pieces. He's excellent too. And I do believe that he is one of the best players at Sevilla right now, to the point that if you ask me who is the most valuable midfielder Sevilla has, I will say Joan Jordan over Rakitic. Because Rakitic is 32 now, and because Joan Jordan has a lot of future ahead of him. He's a great player. He improved a lot when he was playing for Eibar a couple of seasons ago under Mendilibar. And then when he signed for Sevilla, he was already a mature player with a know-how of how to deal in the midfield with any setback or any difficulty that the game can present you. And he is a fantastic player. I to the point that I do believe that if he does well this season, he might finally be called for the Spanish national team, all together with Pedri, another midfielder who is doing excellent at Barcelona.
Yeah, he's one of the signings I wrote about previously about how Barcelona need to kind of change the way they've looked at the transfer market. They've brought in the likes of Coutinho and Ousmane Dembele and Griezmann, but actually what they're not doing enough of is these smaller signings of the likes of Pedri from Las Palmas, I believe it was, that he came in. And they just need to, for me, be smarter and more savvy in the market at signing these young guys that are going to have so much potential. Not only that, but signing certain players, like you look at Real Madrid and some of the signings that they've made, they haven't gone out to sign the big Galactico signings besides Hazard in the last couple of years or a few years or so. And in fact, they've had a few transfer windows where they've not brought in anyone at all, and they've kind of put a lot of emphasis on the younger players. But Barca just kind of panic, I suppose, in some of the windows and end up doing some silly things. Kind of focusing the last end of our chat on Arteta. And talking about the job that he's done, we spoke to Graham Hunter on the show about a week ago now, and he was very in support of Arteta. Well, not necessarily in support, but certainly kind of outlining what Arteta is about, the good coach that he is, kind of Arsenal fans needing to realise what they have and not being too reactionary to some poor form. What have you made of? I mean, the last time we spoke was, of course, at the end of the summer transfer window, and since then, Arsenal have had the worst start to a Premier League ever that they've ever had, and only recently have results begun to pick up with the wins against Chelsea, Brighton, and West Brom. So, what have you kind of made of Arteta this season? And do you think that the position that Arsenal were in, where they won one game of their last 10 league matches, how much of that was down to Arteta, and how much, being the counterpoint, is that down to kind of the problems within the squad that he's got?
Well, I think that the manager has always a responsibility. I think that the second Arsenal was going to start doing wrong or getting a bad run of results, Arteta was going to be reminded about the Mesut Ozil thing. That happened inevitably. I do believe that Arsenal is a big club, and big clubs, they've got a lot of platforms and channels where fans and the fan base talk about the team all the time, and we know that because we are in one of them. Arsenal is a big club, and the critics were going to be there because the demand has to be high. And I think that is something that Arteta knows because he was an Arsenal player. I think that he is in a learning process as well. He needs to know what his squad can give him. So far, no stone has been left unturned. He tried everything. I was checking, for example, the last time Arsenal played against Newcastle ahead of this upcoming FA Cup game. And in that game against Newcastle, that Arsenal won 4-0, Mesut Ozil scored. So, every player has been given a chance. Now, for example, Arteta it's better than he was 3 weeks ago. I mean, Christmas has been excellent after losing against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup quarterfinals, when Arsenal has won the last 3 games in a row, which is great, against Chelsea, Brighton and Hove Albion, West Bromwich Albion. And they are improving gradually in the league. Now they are only 6 points away from Europe. And I do believe that this is happening in every European league. For example, if you check Juventus start in Italy, Barcelona's start in Spain, they've been all mid-table at some point, and Arsenal, they've been even a bit lower. But little by little, the table is correcting itself, and the logic is imposing itself. And Arsenal, now they are in the top half of the table and going up little by little. And I think that the Cups and the Europa League have been some sort of a blessing for Arteta too, because he has tried players there. Last season in the FA Cup, he won the last 6 games to lift the trophy. In the Europa League this season he has won 6 games already, which is great, and he has tried new players, and some of those new players, they are already playing in the Premier League. So I think that little by little the team is making some sense, and I think that Arsenal is improving gradually. For example, the game against West Bromwich Albion was fantastic, but the game against Chelsea too. I mean, you beat a decent Premier League side, Chelsea, with a monumental performance from Bukayo Saka. For example, against West Bromwich Albion, something happened that caught my eye. I mean, Arsenal got the link-up game back again, which is something that I've been missing at Arsenal for a long time. I remember 4 or 5 years ago, and you remember this too, when the likes of Cazorla, Mesut Ozil, Ramsey made triangles all around the pitch. Watching Arsenal was beautiful. And the other day, for example, the goal of Bukayo Saka, one of them, against West Bromwich Albion, was fantastic with Emil Rowe just making that a fantastic pass to start the action, Saka giving him the ball back, Emil Rowe just passing the ball again, and Saka scoring. So there are so many positives just erupting and racing at Arsenal that I would say be patient, wait a little bit, because I think at this team, little by little, they are getting better and better.
But they are. And you mentioned the Man City game, which was kind of a spark before the Chelsea match. We lost 4-1 in that match, but I saw so many positives within that game. I mean, for the moment that it was 1-1, obviously we conceded very early on to what I thought was a goalkeeping error from Runnison anyway, with letting Gabriel get in at the near post. But then we equalised with Martinelli's energy. He's come back and been huge for us, and the energy that he's provided Arsenal as well. But then when it remained 1-1 for a while, Arsenal were solidly on top of that game. And it was that goalkeeper mistake from Mahrez's free kick and then an offside goal from Phil Foden that kind of killed the game off completely. But then Smith Rowe came on towards the end of that match for the last 20, 25 minutes, even though we were losing 3-1, 4-1 by that point. And the interplay and the change of play and the incisive passing that he brought has been something that Arsenal have missed for so long, because by not having Mesut Ozil in the team, Arsenal have had no senior central creative attacking midfielder at all. Ceballos' role has kind of changed at Arsenal to become more of a deeper 8, even a 6 at times. And that's meant that Arsenal haven't had that player to be the creative spark. And Smith Rowe has been that. Now, as we are still in the January window, there is the opportunity that Arsenal could go out and sign another creative midfielder. And it's a good argument that I want to put to you, because I have a debate with a good friend of mine, Drew, on the show quite a lot about this and on social media as well. And he's very much of the mind that Arsenal shouldn't really be looking at someone like Buendia or anyone of that ilk, really, because if you're going to bring someone in, it's going to block the route and the path of a player like Smith Rowe. Now, I say to him, I think it would be naive to not bring anyone in, because as soon as someone like Smith Rowe, who has had injury problems in the past or contracts COVID or something like that and could be out for a few games, Arsenal will go back to being that side that lack that creative spark. So how important for you do you think it is that Arsenal do invest and do go into the market, even if it's just, say, a 6-month loan deal until the summer for, I know we was linked to him, but I don't see it happen now, but like an Isco for 6 months? Does that kind of deal make sense, considering how fragile Arsenal could be if Smith Rowe was to be out for a bit?
Well, I am on board with you. I think that if Arsenal can sign someone, they should sign someone, because, as you said, I mean, Smith Rowe, he's had an injury record. At the same time, he hasn't played full 90 minutes yet in this fantastic run that Arsenal is having. So, he's a player that obviously is developing physically, and at some point, probably the accumulation of playing time is going to catch up with him. So, if Arsenal can sign a creative midfielder, especially a number 9, I think that they should try. They should try, definitely. You mentioned Isco. Well, I don't think that Isco will be that man, and I tell you why. For example, I think it would be more clever to sign Isco in summer than in winter, because if you sign him in summer and if you got 2 or 3 weeks to train properly in the pre-season, Isco will improve a lot. But right now, when you sign in January, you want immediate results. And I don't think that Isco is going to give you that. He's been deployed and he's been on the bench so much that his fitness is not very good at the minute. So not Isco, in my opinion, in winter, but any other player who can get available. I don't think that Julian Brandt is that player either, the Borussia Dortmund player, but because rather than number 10, I think that Julian Brandt, he's always, looking forward, looking to score goals, and maybe he's not thinking too much about the link-up game. But I do believe that Arsenal, yes, if they can strengthen the squad, they have to do it, of course.
What do you make of Buendia then, as the name that you didn't talk about? So is he over like a Brandt, which I'm very much, and again, I bring up Drew, my friend, who's a big Bundesliga supporter. He's wanted Brandt at Arsenal for quite a long time, but I've leaned much more towards Buendia as a signing, not only for the type of player that he is, but very much more because I think that Arsenal need to look within England to make more signings, because we've had kind of an over-reliance of signing players from abroad and not necessarily from bringing players from within the Premier League or the lower leagues either.
Well, and Buendia, obviously, he has had a 1-year experience in the Premier League with Norwich City, and I think that he's very good in the link-up game as well, and every pass forward he puts normally is a very deep, nice pass forward with a lot of intelligence, looking for the space, and I do believe that Arsenal needs that a lot, because didn't it happen to you this season that at some point Arsenal, they seem like they have mastered the playing the ball from the back thing and making the decisive pass to Aubameyang, and then Aubameyang scoring. That happened in Craven Cottage at the beginning of the season. That happened last season in the FA Cup. They seem that they had that move, that it was excellent and it was working very well for them. But if that move didn't work at some point in October and November, Arsenal didn't have a lot of creativity in the midfield just to compensate the fact that Aubameyang wasn't scoring. And I think that number 10 that Buendia is can bring something very positive for Arsenal, in the same way that Smith Rowe has been, for me, the greatest news Arsenal has had in the last 3 weeks. Because as I said, thanks to a player like this, Arsenal recovers the link-up game. And Buendia knows exactly how to do that. He will be a very good signing too, yes, no doubt about it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Alvaro, for your insight and your information about everything today. Can you tell people where they can find you on social media?
Of course, it will be Alvaro_Romeo on Twitter.
There you go.
I will be there.
Awesome.
Being annoying.
Yes. And what's the plan now after the FA Cup weekend? What's the main focus going to be for yourself?
Well, definitely the Spanish Super Cup, which will be played next Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the final on Sunday.
Is that in Spain?
Athletic Bilbao, that's in Spain this year, for reasons that we all know. Yeah. And it will be played in the south of Spain, and Real Madrid, Barcelona, Athletic Club Bilbao, and Real Sociedad will play it. And I do believe that whoever wins it, in the same way that winning the Carabao Cup gives you a proper lift for the rest of the season, winning the Super Cup can turn Barcelona's season a little bit around, and it can be a positive turning point for them, because Barcelona needs good news ASAP, and winning the Super Cup, winning a title is always good news.
Yeah, for sure. I love that weird kind of form. I say love. It's a weird format again to the Super Cup to be four sides. But of course, last season it was played. Was it in the UAE that it was played, or Saudi Arabia, or
Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia, yeah. So, and obviously because of COVID, they're now bringing that back into Spain for now. But that'll be interesting to see how that goes down. It'd be interesting to see how Atletico Madrid, if they do push on from that cup final, kind of not cup final, but the cup knockout round defeat, how they're going to push on from that. So, keep your eyes peeled to La Liga this season. And of course, I'm sure we will see Alvaro back on the show in the near future. But again, speak to you soon, mate, and have a good one.
Okay, Tom, take care, man. And it's been a pleasure being here.
100%. Thank you for listening, people. If you could drop a like on the video, we'd really appreciate it. And you can subscribe to the channel to get absolutely fantastic content every single day. And you can join up as a member to help support the channel too. We'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.